My name's Jonathan, and I'm in the web and software program. I worked in the SLED project for the IS project class, along with Jake, Conrad, and Neil. SLED stands for Student Learning Evidence Database, and it's a faculty program for WCTC. It can configure assessments, rubrics, and run reports for those as well. It's the backbone of the administration here at WCTC. Some history of the projects. It was made because the previous one was disconnected or discontinued, my bad, and switched to manual data for a time. It started in fall semester of 2018. The School of Business was actually the first to use it. And from there, it spread throughout the entire campus, and now it's a core component. The users for SLED are mainly faculty, but WCTC also has admin staff that use it as well. And it's primarily used at the end of terms, uh, whether it's the 8-week or the 16-week term. A little bit of extra info is it collects student learning evidence, such as program outcomes, which are the technical skills of a program, and critical life skills, which are the soft skills like speaking, communication that make a student a better employee. And we take that data and use it to improve the curriculum for the next semester. And some value for the business side, it was created by students. It costs nothing for the WCTC to produce, and it provides extreme value to faculty. To get into what we did over the semester, we were tasked with redoing the security, which was previously a role-based security. And it was based on the jobs of a user, like an administrator or a faculty. Our product owner wanted more flexibility for the security and wanted specialized roles. Administrator and faculty are just too broad of terms to really focus in on something. So we switched it to permission-based security. It changes the list of user roles to permissions, which are used to focus on tasks of a user instead of a job title. It treated permissions as the roles for the project or program. It was surprisingly easy and secure, but required a lot of testing on our part, and it can also protect from URLs. And this is just a visual representation of the user roles. So on the left, you can see the previous user roles just had administrator for admin, but now with the one on the right, it has all these different small permissions like add assessments, add rubric, that allows administrators to really create different roles for different tasks instead of just having administrator. Now, I'm gonna pass it off to Jake to explain the permission table we created for the program that goes alongside this.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. My name's Jake Muro. I'm also a student in the Web and Software Development Program. So this is SLED. One of the other major features that we worked on implementing this semester was the ability to manage permissions that a role has. So if we go into the roles, hold on one sec, I gotta sign back in real quick, sorry. All right. So if we go into the roles page here, And we'll go into the administrator role. So we added this new edit permissions button. And this will bring up a page with all of the permissions that are currently in the database. If the role currently has it, it'll be active, blue with the check mark and says active. So that means the role currently has a permission. If you go down a little bit, you can see that the permissions that the role doesn't have will be marked inactive with the gray button. So this provides a lot of value to administrators. So, like if they want to restrict something that they don't want the faculty to see, more of like an administrative only kind of feature, they can do that here. So for an example, let's take this one out, create manage users. It'll refresh the page, and then you can see that it's no longer active for this role. So we'll add it back in. And then it's active again. So to demonstrate the functionality of this, we'll say that we want to restrict mapping. So we'll click that to make it inactive. And then if we go back to the admin dashboard, so it still shows up on my screen because for it to take effect, we have to sign back out and sign back in. So I'm going to actually pass this over to Neil, and he's going to demonstrate it with his account that he no longer would have access to the mapping feature.
Okay, thanks, Jake. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And go over, and I also have to sign in. So in order to demonstrate it properly, I have to sign in under an administrator account, but under a different one. So while this is loading, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Neil. I'm also in the web and software development program, also in the market for an internship. If anyone out there is looking for an intern, I'd be happy to hear from you. So when we go over to the admin dashboard, and we can see now where the mapping button was previously, it is gone, and now we've just got a blank spot where scheduling is where it was. And also the URL is disabled as well. So if I go ahead and paste in, this is the actual link to that page. If you try to go to it, it kicks you right back out and starts you over. So that's how the functionality of that works. And so let's go on to some of the other things that we accomplished over the semester. One of the things that we did was work on a ability to set score sets. So if we're going to go into assessments slowly, and let's just go into a testing assessment here. Test rubric. And so we're going to edit this. And what we did, we added the ability to edit the score set. So these are score sets. So we've got CLS, which is critical life skills, and TSA, which is technical skills attainment. And so we can go into these and view them, and we can see that we've got exceeding expectations, meeting, et cetera, and so forth. And then we can mark them active and inactive. And let's say down the road, WCTC wants to add another score set. Let's say a prior learning assessment. So for previous life skills, we can go ahead and add a PLA score set. We can make it active. And when we do that, it shows up, and now we've got PLA and we can view it. And we want to add some objectives in there. So it's either pass, and we're going to put a value of 1. And so the value would be like in a GPA, a 4.0 is a good and 1 is bad. So the value is basically just that. The order is the sort order, so that when you're looking at it on this screen, it shows up in the order that it should. It's not just a random one. And let's just add one more here. We're going to give the value of 1 and an order of 0. We'll also make this active as well. Actually, just show. And that one's not active. So sort order goes from 0, 1, and increases. So that's our score set. And we can delete them as well as we can delete score sets themselves. However, like for example, if we try to delete this score set, it gives us an error. It says you can't remove it unless you get rid of all the scores inside the score set. And likewise, if you try to get rid of one of the scores that have students attached to it, it won't let you do that, because otherwise you end up with students who may have lost their grade system. If somebody made a change to the database like that, so it doesn't allow it unless nobody has that score used. One of the other things that we did, we allowed instructors to upload students with a CSV file as opposed to individually. And it's running a little slow, but I'll show you when I get to that here real quick what I mean by that. So a CSV file is a comma separated value, which is very similar to a spreadsheet. It's a type of spreadsheet. So Jake's got a class here we're going to go into, and we can see that there's 2 students in here right now. Previously, it was just a matter of clicking on this enroll student, and then one at a time, you could enter in different students. Now we've added the ability to upload with the CSV file. So I can go in and I can choose a file. I've already created the student list. So I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to upload. And I can see these were all the names and ID numbers that were in that list. And I can see I've got a couple error messages here. This ID is for a different person. And this ID is also for a different person. So this ID here goes to this person here. So we're going to go ahead and replace that. And then since this one, we don't even need anymore. So we're going to go ahead and check it as delete. And this one, we already know the name. And so we're going to change the name here. And then we're going to go ahead and save it. And then you can see down here, all those names have been added to the list. So those were 2 of the other bigger projects that we had worked on. We had some smaller ones that we had worked on as well. We did a lot of bug fixes, a lot of dead links that we fixed. Did for the user page, did some pagination before. All the users were on one page. Now we've set it up so that you can scroll through page by page, smaller items like that. And for the rest of the stuff, I'm going to let Conrad finish up with the demonstration of the product, and you can go from there.
Thanks, Neil. So I'm Conrad Newman. I'm also in the IT Web and Software Development program. So another big change that we made to the program was to add a page that allowed us to manage the assessment categories. So on the assessments page, we can see that we have critical life skills assessment as a category, as well as project outcome assessments. Now, in order to allow for users to be able to add new categories or to alter the existing ones, we needed to add a page for that. So if we go into the Add New Assessment button and then Manage Categories, we can see the new page. So one of the features, we can add a new one by hitting the Create New Category button. And a modal window will pop up showing you all the information that you can put in. We can just put in a test name and test information for the rest. And it adds it to our categories. So we can also toggle them active and inactive by the active button. And when we hit edit, it brings up the information to be altered as well. So yeah, so that's the edit modal. And also we can delete them as well. But if we try to delete one that has assessments under it, it won't allow us to do that because that would cause errors in the database. So that sums up the changes or the additions we made for this assessment categories page. We also added percent validation on some pages, as well as allowing multiple CRNs to be selected when scheduling courses. And for the rest, I'll hand it off to Jonathan.
Thank you, Conrad. So as for the conclusion of our presentation, we streamlines or enhanced a lot of the current processes within the program. We created new features that made it easier for faculty and admin to do their job. And we redid the security to be more dynamic and allow for focused roles and tasks for faculty or admin. Now is the time for you to ask us any questions. Thank you for listening.
Well, I have some questions. If it's okay if I start, I got a lot of them though. Uh, so first of all, I wasn't sure who was the customer for this project. Was it Kim or Nikki?
It was Nikki.
Okay, so based on what I know about Nikki, I'm just wondering, was this pretty well spelled out when you started, or were there a lot of things that got kind of added along the way? Can't hear you, Neil.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I felt it was pretty well spelled out. There were a lot of things right off the bat that were requested of us, and there were a few things along the way as we did stuff. Then it was kind of like, oh, if you're doing that, then maybe we should implement something like this as well. And so I think there was a lot of stuff to begin with.
And is your customer happy with the finished product?
She expressed satisfaction. So you'd have to ask her if she's happy with it or not.
When I got the security running, she was pretty excited. She did help a bit in the beginning, so it was a lot of me and her conversing about it. And yeah, I'd say she was satisfied with what we came up with.
So I don't know if I missed it. Did you guys have a way in there to like add or remove administrators?
What do you mean?
Like users themselves.
Well, you had users that had certain roles, right?
Yeah,
And certain users had elevated roles from typical users, right?
yeah.
There was
We
a way
were
to
all,
add and remove those users or not?
yes, that was in the roles. When you see when Jake was presenting, when you click on the administrator, there was a button to add and remove users from the administrator.
So my question is this: if I were an administrator and I accidentally deleted all the administrators, are you preventing that, or what would happen if that happened?
With the right now, we're not preventing that. It's test data. Um, so we do have a database that allows us to bring us back in, but yeah, that is something we should consider.
They didn't actually work on the changing role membership this semester, but I believe we have it coded in so that you can't delete the last administrator.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, that was
I
last.
guess we just didn't know that.
Okay. Is that something on the database then, or?
No, I think it's something within the program. There can't be less than one.
Okay,
That's what I'm guessing it would.
okay, my last two questions. What was the most challenging thing, and was it fun, the project?
I think security was most challenging. I remember talking to you about it, and that's when we kind of had our breakthrough. Was when you told us to treat the permissions as roles, because before that it would have been a new, I think it was Owen, Microsoft Owen. We're going to use that and create custom policies. But instead of having to do that, we were just able to put the permissions in the user roles. So before that, it was probably the hardest thing. After that, it was just a bunch of testing.
And was it fun? I
Yeah.
thought it was fun. It for me, right out of the gate when I realized that it wasn't the same framework that we had been spending the last 2 semesters learning C#, and we were learning model view model. I spent the first 2 weeks, the first sprint, just watching videos and looking at documentation online, just trying to understand how they were doing it. And to me, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I really satisfying too. Once I figured it out, once I got the hang of it, then I'm like, okay, yeah, this is pretty neat.
Cool. Well, then my last comment is big thumbs up. You guys did a great job. Really impressed. Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work. My name is Randy Gore. I'm Director of Academic Excellence. I'm one of the customers, actually. I work with Nikki on administering the assessment system with our faculty. I was really pleased to see the new feature you added with the ability to upload the roster of students using spreadsheets. I can tell you a couple of weeks ago, I spent a couple hours creating a roster of nursing students who recently passed their NCLEX exam. So if you would have gotten the work done a little sooner, you probably could have saved some time on that work, but that's going to be a real nice efficiency to be able to upload rosters of students directly into the system.
Awesome.
I like the work you're doing on roles. I'm wondering if at some point down the road, you could provide a feature that would allow administrators to impersonate a user. One of the things that happens all the time is we make changes within the system, we map assessments, or we schedule assessments, and then we have to ask the faculty to go out and look and see if they can see that the assessment is available. It really would be nice if I could impersonate the user to be able to verify myself that in fact that assessment is scheduled and available for that user. We have that capability in Canvas. I can do that for any instructor at the college. I can impersonate a student. It's just a really nice and convenient feature for me to kind of troubleshoot and see what's going on with the system rather than having that back and forth between the user to try to problem solve. What do you think about that idea?
I think that's a great idea. That's actually one of the things that we ran into while we were testing a lot of the clinicians. We wanted to be able to see how it worked and if it was working or not. So I think in the future, Nikki, if you want to put that on one of the other classes, I think that'd be a fantastic addition.
We'll put it on the backlog.
There you go. Thanks.
I have a question. So currently you are working with test data, and how are you planning on implementing what the changes that you made into your production environment?
So I think that's something Nikki's going to do, and Nikki and Matt, but I believe it's just changing the database they connect to. There's not much changes besides just switching from the test database to the actual database. But they have to go through a testing process to make sure nothing crashes, nothing bad happens with what we created before they can do that. So I don't know if you want to hear an answer from Nikki or Matt, but I think that's something on their side.
Yeah, it'll be tested and then deployed once everything's verified.
When is deployment, Nikki?
Hopefully this summer.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
And the test environment is exactly like the production environment, correct, as far as configuration and everything?
Yeah.
Mike.
You know, that's the first question I always
I
ask.
know.
What version of SQL is it? Is it the same? You know.
2019.
Okay, good.
We probably have time for one more question for this group, if anybody's got one. Otherwise, we'll move on. Any other questions or comments?
How was it working with Conrad? Conrad is
It was
full of like 20 million ideas at all
Yeah,
times.
it was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay working with yourself, Conrad. I'm happy for you. Good job, dude.
Yeah.
You guys did
very,
great work.
yeah. He's very
Thank you.
creative.
Yes.
Added a lot of liveliness to our discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you guys did great, and I'm sure that ability to upload a roster is going to be widely loved. So nice job.
Well, you can thank Neil for that.
Team effort. All team effort.
Okay, is our next group ready? So who am I giving the floor to?
Chris will be sharing a screen and I will be starting us off.
Okay, Mike.
All right, next is our health information technology group. So we'll let them take it away.
We are the developmental team for the Healthcare Information Web Application, also known as HIT. I am Michael Olson. I'm the Scrum Master for the team, which is similar to a project manager. I also did the programming, and I am currently looking for an internship to finish up my degree in web and software development here.
Hi, I'm John Banak. I was a programmer throughout this project. I'm looking for a internship myself to complete my career here at WCTC.
Hello, I'm Tej Patel. I was a database developer for this team, and I will be graduating this semester as a database specialist here from WCTC and I have a full-time job lined up at GA Larson, HVAC distribution company here in Pewaukee.
My name is Christopher Pavelsek. I had the opportunity to work as a programmer on this project. I'll be graduating this summer with a degree in web and software development, and next week I'll be getting a full-time position at iNet Web and Marketing as a web programmer.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Villock. I too was a programmer on this project. I currently work at Batteries Plus Bulbs in an internship position and am hoping for full-time employment.
We also worked very closely with Angela and one of her students. She's the project owner for this project and the program director and instructor for the Health and Information Technology and Medical Coding Specialist programs. In this presentation, we will be going over a general overview of the HIT web application and its uses, what we did to update the site, and what we have added to the site. I will now be handing it over to Tej to go over the overview.
Thanks, Michael. Before we begin, I'd like to make a brief disclaimer saying all data in this application is fake, so there are no reasons for any privacy concerns or HIPAA compliance concerns. For the general overview of the project, our main purpose was to develop an electronic health record for the school. The two primary purposes of EHRs are to store patient medical history information and automate and streamline healthcare workflow. One of the key points in our project was to make it compatible for use on tablets and PCs. This is because in the real world, nurses and doctors often use tablets for real-time data entry and then refine this data on PCs. They also use PCs to write reports, and administrative duties are also done on PCs. Our software is going to be a scaled down software of industry examples such as Epic Systems, as you guys may be aware of, is located in Madison, Cerner EHR, and Meditech Expanse. Our software, our EHR system is not going to be a copy of these because these are very complicated and complex. Rather, it's going to mimic key features for additional educational purposes. Our business use and benefits is, as stated, for the benefit of students at WCTC, primarily in the health programs. An EHR record for use by programs at WCTC gives the students a preliminary exposure to real-world software. Currently, students have two options. They can either do simulated activities from textbooks, which are very linear and don't really give much room for exploration, much like lab work in other classes. Or there's a second option where students or college will fund for software. However, this is very expensive and not something that is beneficial to the level of software we would create. Additionally, this provides healthcare IT experience to us as developers, which is invaluable, as getting professional healthcare experience is near impossible without actual industry, I guess. Yeah. I'd like to hand it off to Chris to show off the broad overview of our website and application.
All right, thank you, Tej. I appreciate it. So I've taken us over here to the web application. This is the home screen, as you can see on your screen. There's three main buttons at the center of your screen. This kind of directs the flow of traffic for a student or user of this application. So you can see patient search, which we'll look at in a moment. You can go to view our checked-in patients, as well as link on the right to BRIT Systems. BRIT Systems stands for Birth Record Information Technology. This is another WCTC student-created program, a very handy resource for nursing students. So it's listed on the home page. As we were to move up to the top left on the navigation bar, I will look to search a patient. As you can see, there's several different ways to look up a patient. Search by name, MRN, which is a medical record number, SSN, social, or date of birth. I'll go ahead and search by our record number. As you can see, I did find the desired patient here. If I didn't find anyone or I wasn't finding who I was looking for, I can go ahead and continue my search by clicking this button. Or if I truly can't find who I'm looking for, I can go ahead and create a new patient. Since I found who I am looking for, I'm going to go ahead and click Details. This takes us through to the patient themselves. Again, a ton of details here. Not everything in here needs to be included. Maybe it's not known at the time of entering patient data, or if it needs to be updated, you can go ahead and click Edit to update or fill in the fields as desired. As we scroll down, you can see we have encounters for the patient. An encounter is anytime there's an interaction, a patient has an interaction with a hospital. So these can add up quite a bit. As you can see, this patient has 2. If you wanted to view more information on a particular encounter, we can go ahead and click View on the desired encounter. If you wanted to create a new one, then you can go ahead and add an encounter on the right. So I'm going to continue on to our checked in patients. As you can see, these are all of our currently checked in patients. It gives you a bit of information about them and the opportunity to view more details on the right, or discharge them if they are ready to be sent off from the hospital. We'll take a little bit of a closer look at this later on. For now, I'm going to direct our attention to the top right of the navigation. So you can see I am currently signed in, and being that I'm signed in, there's a logout button available. And since I am an administrator, I do have administration tools available. If it was a student or someone without the ability to access this, I would not be present. So I'll move through to the administration. As you can see, there's several paths we can go down. Security roles, this is very handy for an administrator to add users in the database to different roles, nursing student, faculty, administrator. If you wanted to create a role, that option is available as well. Going back, PCA is a patient care assessment. These are the fields that you'll see when creating a patient care assessment, and this gives you the tool to update or change fields as needed. Moving over to encounter, it's more of the same for each encounter. These are the fields needed. You can go in here and update or edit them as desired. Likewise with physician data, same deal. You can go in here, update things, change fields as needed. Very handy. Last but not least is our list of all of the users in the database. We'll take a closer look at that later on in the presentation. For now, I want to bring this back to Becky to give us a little bit more information about the work we did.
Thank you, Chris. First, I'll be talking about the update, which is where we spent a great deal of time and effort. We had to update from 2.2 because it was no longer going to be supported. This is kind of the same reason that businesses will upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7 or Windows 10. Our first line of thought was to upgrade to 3.5 since a lot of major changes happened in that particular update. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and a lot of the solutions to our problems were solutions for updating straight to 5.0. So when we switched gears and ended up doing that, a lot of our problems were solved. We still had some issues with conflicting dependencies. This is kind of like when you want to play a video game on the DS or the Switch. You can't take the Switch game and plug it into the DS or vice versa. You have to make sure you have the right version. We now are in 5.0, which means for the next 2 years, we're good with support from Microsoft, and we've added additional functionality as well. I'll be handing it off to Michael.
Thank you, Becky. After we updated the framework, we updated the database to allow for more data to be stored and more pages to access that new data. To do this, however, and bring it over to the code, we used a process called scaffolding. Scaffolding is similar to its namesake, which you would use to reach higher up places. We used it so that our code could reach the database. This proved difficult, however, initially because the prior code that had already been created did not use scaffolding. And so like in actual scaffolding, if there was a bunch of ladders in your way, you'd have to go in and take them down first before you could set up the scaffolding. We had to go through the code and take down a lot of what they had and put up new stuff so that our scaffolding would work. But now that we have that done, in the future, people can just use this process to bring over any changes that are done to the database easily and quickly. I'll now be handing it back over to Becky.
Thank you, Michael. We also added physician forms, and this was so that in the next semester they can begin implementing the use of this application in classrooms. One of the physician forms we added was the progress notes, and these are kind of like daily check-ins while the patient is in the system. We currently can just show that they have progress notes. In future semesters, they will add more functionality such as viewing them, adding new ones, and editing currently existing ones. Another form that we added was history and physical. This is kind of an initial assessment of what is wrong with the patient. And I will be handing it off to John.
Thank you, Becky. We added a lot of functionality to the administration as well. So most of this had to do with the users, who are the students and teachers who are going to be using this program, not patients. The security roles that allow the administrator to add roles will now allow the administrator to be able to add or remove users from these roles. And also under user management which is mostly based on the user list, which is pretty self-explanatory. And from there, the user details can be viewed and each user can be edited or deleted. I'm going to hand it off to Chris, and he's going to show you some of the new things we added.
All right, thank you, John. Going back to where we left off, I'd like to pick up on what John was referring to here in our list users. Here you can see all of the users currently in the database. As this number is likely to climb greatly, you can limit your selection of users on the top left. On the right, you can go ahead and search for a specific user if desired by name, ID, or start date. Moving down to the head of the table here, you can sort by name alphabetically, ID from low to high, high to low, or by the start date. Moving along to the right, you can go ahead and select desired users for deletion, and you can go and deselect them as well. If we were to follow through on the details tab, you can see more information about a specific user. If something is not there, doesn't look right, needs to be edited, you can go ahead and do so by clicking this button below, or delete that specific user. Then on the right, we can go to the next and previous users as desired. Now I'm going to take us back to our checked in patients. I wanted to talk a little bit about the history and physical as well as progress notes. I will select Amelia again. Once again, these data is fictitious. Amelia doesn't exist. As you can see here, we have a specific encounter. This was added previously, and if you direct your attention to the left, there is a added menu we were able to include. Under physician documents, you can see history and physical. If you were to follow through to this screen, you can create a specific physician assessment, a history and physical, a note related to this encounter. So you can go through, fill in these forms as desired or needed, and when satisfied, you can go ahead and save that specific physician assessment, or return to the checked-in encounters or to that specific patient. Going back to our menu on the left, we can follow through to our progress notes. There's likely to be a lot of progress notes, so they will stack up on each other here. Amelia has 2 currently. And right now, you can see the type, the author, and the physician, the co-signature there. In the future, as Becky had stated, we'd like to have the ability to view, edit, delete these progress notes. So that's a little bit about our recent updates. And I'm going to take us back to John with the presentation to finish up for us.
So we learned a lot throughout this project. First off, one of the main things we learned was that in order to perform an update, it's easiest to just follow the documentation, which we were able to hunt down some documentation through Microsoft, which helped us out a lot. But then we also had to go through some errors individually because it didn't apply to everything in our project. This is a very large project, and updating it had its own challenges. We also learned that scaffolding can be very important to do from the very beginning because it's going to make it a lot easier for future developers to merge the database into the program, like Michael was saying earlier. One of the main issues we kept running into were just small errors created by either scaffolding or updating throughout the project. It just changed small things here and there. And like, for example, one of these things were scaffolding added S's to the ends of some files, which is an easy fix, but because it was such a large and robust project, it took us a while to hunt down these small little things that changed. But we were able to fix all of those and come out with a finished product. We also learned that simplicity is better. There's not really a need to overcomplicate what should be simple. We don't need too many ways to do the same things because we don't want to confuse the users. At the end here, we've helped to develop an operational web application that emulates a hospital system. It can be used by health students, to learn the functionality of real world systems, and they can play around on it. As for the future of the project, the next big development that's going to be included is obviously for the progress notes, and then also adding mock ordering for different healthcare features. So that would be like for medications or discharging, admitting patients, or even consultation. And lastly, we would like to thank the teachers who helped us out, including Matt and Nikki. And we want to extend a special thank you to Angela, who helped us throughout the project and was very helpful. She answered all of our questions in a timely manner, and we couldn't have done it without her. Are there any questions?
I have some questions. So I hate to go first every time, but so first of all, I just wanted to say that, and I've seen this project over the last however long it's been around. It's actually quite impressive where this project has gone. It's a massive project, like I think you said that in your presentation. And as more and more gets added to it, I'm starting to think we should start talking to a hospital here and see if we can maybe make some money off this thing. But in all seriousness, you guys, I mean, really impressive. But my first question is, because of the fact that you guys took on this project, which was pretty substantial, how did you feel about the fact that, I mean, you know, that you had this big thing that you started to learn before you really could even start programming? Was that a real challenge, or I'm just curious where you came down on that?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was a very daunting project. We were going into a new project that had a lot of stuff in it that was programmed by a lot of different people. And we were starting with the update for it, which none of us had experience with before. So we were spending a lot of time researching how to update and just going through the code to see what the site did and how it did it. So that was a lot just going into it initially. But we got through it and think it was pretty good.
Yeah, I would say
doing so.
Just piggybacking off of that, I think I personally spent, the first week just kind of going through the site and following along with the code, finding out why they did certain things or how they did certain things. And sometimes be like, I'm not sure why it was done that way. And then like 2 weeks later when we're working on something else, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's why that was done in that manner. So it was a great learning exercise for me.
Awesome. Also wondering, how did you guys, so I know like Tej is kind of secretly a programmer in a database specialist clothing, kind of.
Kind of.
Did you do any programming?
And I actually did not. No, I stuck with the database mostly.
How did you guys kind of decide who was doing what on this project?
Well, we all did the update together just because it was so intense. And then it was kind of whoever had more time or felt more comfortable in an area, they would kind of do something. But if they got stuck, everyone just kind of would hop in and be like, oh, here, let me help you out, research this. It's very
Yeah,
much team effort on everything.
we met a few times a week all together, so we were all there to kind of support each other, and because we did run into a lot of different issues, and it helped having everybody there because they were like, oh, I saw this in my area, so then we were able to jump back and forth and kind of share our expertise on the issues we were running into.
I think we ended up meeting like 3 times a week for a couple weeks. Just
It's a
because.
massive amount of work, this final project. I don't know if you know, many of the students are really prepared for how challenging it really is until you actually get into it. And I think that in most cases, the students find it very rewarding, but it's a ton of work. So I just like to say congratulations to you guys. You did an awesome job. And also I think all of your instructors should kind of pat themselves on their back because you guys did do a great job. So good work. That was fun.
Jeff would like to take all of the work or credit for all the work that you guys did. No, I'm teasing. Hey, make sure you guys put those details of what you did on your resume, because just that ability to come into an existing setup and do an update on it and add additional features, that's huge. So make sure you really outline and put all those keywords in your resume.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what Brittany said, I just did an interview, and that was a lot of the key questions we're asking: what projects and changes have you implemented, you know, any large projects? So it will definitely help, even from an internship and just direct hire on, if you add those details within your resume.
So I got a question, if it's okay to ask a new one.
Absolutely, Drew.
2 questions. One, how would you recommend keeping things current going forward, since it sounds like you spend a lot of time updating packages, modules, database connections, etc.? So do you have any thoughts on that? And more importantly, it's great to hear the team reflecting on brownfield development, taking over a project that someone who doesn't work at the company anymore wrote 3 years ago, because it's real world. What's your biggest sort of takeaway that you want to take into your first full-time role when you're done?
So on the first question, for updating the database, the .NET Core 5.0 should be supported for at least 2 years, if not more. So going forward, it's supported for a decent amount of time. And then after that, Windows actually has a very good descriptions on what needs to be done to update to a future version of it. So following that step by step, and specifically going to whatever their newest version is, even if there is in-between versions. Like we had mentioned in the presentation, we originally tried going to a middle stage, and that, because we originally thought that would be easier to go step by step, but just going straight to whatever the newest version is, because that has the most support and documentation. And then on the database side with the scaffolding, because we've now implemented scaffolding, future updates to the database should be as simple as just running the command line for it. They shouldn't need to go through and change any of the names in it or mess with the code at all, besides just running the scaffolding. And it should go through just fine. It's just going to be a matter of remembering to do that and not try to manually put in anything, because that would break it again.
So is scaffolding the new entity framework sort of data model EDMX tool?
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because it was using entity framework previously, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it was a migration there too. Okay, impressive.
To answer the second part of your question, kind of picking up where team left off, I kind of mentioned it before, just learning from how they did things. You know, with my experience level, I came in and there's things I had used minimally in the past, but I hadn't really gone in depth on, and just kind of seeing the breadcrumbs they left helped me to be more well-rounded as a programmer, and seeing like, oh, they used a view bag here for, you know, to accomplish this, and I'm like, well, why did they do that? And then you do the research and you're like, oh, okay, that's actually a great use for it, you know, and then you learn a bit more from that. um, Partial views is another thing I hadn't worked a ton with, but that was used several times in previous versions of this project, and after I got comfortable with it, I can see really useful, very handy tool. So just learning from things, I guess.
Yeah, and it also, for me at least, it showed me that going into something with a project this large doesn't have to be as intimidating as some who haven't seen a project this big might think it is. You just kind of have to break it down and go step by step and look through it, and it eventually starts making sense.
I think we've got time for one more question. Does anybody have anything? All right.
I got one for Angela then, because I'm curious if is Angela on the call? I didn't see the list and I'm on my phone.
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Angela, what's your biggest takeaway, biggest win from this latest update? Because to Jeff's point earlier, it's transitioned a lot over the years, right?
It has transitioned a lot. And I think my biggest thing is that every time we have to do something major that's not planned originally, like when we went into the project, it was going to be, we're going to build these physician forums and Tasia's going to build the database and these guys are going to overlay it with the programming and then we'll have this functioning thing. But with that migration, they ran into so many problems and the things that broke that they didn't expect to break. And then I would go in and try to test some things like, oh, no, this isn't working either. So then, and it was all stuff that had nothing to do with what we initially set out to do. So that was, I think, probably our biggest challenge as a group this semester. And a lot of the things that they were struggling with were not things that I could help them with because it wasn't on my side of things. So every semester that we've done this, it has been a very rewarding, unique experience. And I really do think that we're only maybe a semester or two away of having something that we can really start to use. Even if it's at a real skim level, it'll be something. So I'm really excited for the direction that it's going. I'm particularly excited that they did this migration and that we're going to be supported for a while and don't have to go through that again anytime soon. So I am looking forward to looking at the backlog, kind of seeing where they left off and what we need to do next to get the remaining forms up and running so that we can start to use it either late in fall or early in spring.
Angela, quick follow-up question. You know, I always think about how much work that our students and faculty and whatnot put in these projects, but how challenging is it for you and your students as well, or other faculty? I don't know. I just don't know what level of work it is for you guys. Do you guys do a lot of work? Is it challenging for your students?
Yeah, it changes from semester to semester depending on what we're going to be working on and whether or not I have students that are available to help me. For me, this has become sort of my pet project that I do over and above everything else I do. So in my free moments, I'm researching. I'm already fairly familiar with content expectations from a medical record standpoint, but trying to wrap my head around what that means from a database standpoint or what that means from a programming standpoint is very different. So I find it very challenging to make sure that I'm giving the students that are going to be working on the project clear direction as to what I'm looking for, knowing that they don't speak my language and I don't always speak their language. So I would say it's time intensive, but it's one of the things that I do that I enjoy the most. When I have students on board, it's really fun because they have a chance to then take what they've learned in their classes and research content and data standards and documentation requirements. Some of the big things that we struggled with is, how do we do authentication of an entry? Because the person logged in a real health record, it isn't just a matter of I'm signed in, so when I enter something, it's my documentation. They still have to go through an authentication process. So finding all of those little pieces is really nice for them too. So it gives them some real world experience that they can take away as well. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. Every semester is a little bit different with what kind of help I have. This semester I had Andrea, who was with me for the first 8 weeks of our semester. And then she moved into her second rotation. So I was kind of on my own after she left me. But she did the bulk of the content on it for this time around. So.
I'm just going to comment quick. I have also seen this project multiple semesters, and it's just amazing to see it continue to just get better and better. And listening to the story about you doing that migration and that update, I think that that's going to really stick with this group as a great experience as a student that you can share in your interviewing and possibly in your career. Nice job, everyone.
Thank you.
So our next project is a little different. Unlike the last two, this is new development starting from scratch, which in the past has been a bit of a challenge for some teams. And I think I'm looking forward to seeing this. So who's speaking first on the next team?
I am. And Josh is sharing.
Okay. So Nikki, anything before they go?
Take it away, Bookstore team.
Hello, everyone. We are the Bookstore Project team, or OWL Books, as we've come to call it. We are really excited to show you our brand new application that will be used by the bookstore and by the school's faculty. My name is David Markwart. I was one of the front-end focused developers on this project. I'm currently looking for an internship or an entry-level position starting this summer.
I'm Sawyer Steffen. I'm a web and software student and I graduate this coming fall. I was a front-end developer for this project.
Hello, my name is Hala Saleh. I'm in Database Specialist program. I'll be graduating this semester. I did my internship at ARIS Senior Network. I plan after graduation to find a career where I can apply my skills and develop new experiences.
Hi, my name is Ryan Beals, one of the database developers here at OWL Books. I'm a former manufacturing professional, current data analyst at Zywave, and future database administrator at Milliman and Telescript upon my graduation this spring.
Hi, I'm Joshua Gossett. I'm finishing up my web and software development program. I do not currently work at Google, but maybe someday. For now, I'm looking for an internship or an entry-level position to complete my degree, and I was a part of the back-end development.
Hi, my name is Jerry Chu. I am the project Scrum Master, as well as one of the backend developers. I'll be graduating this week from Business IT with my second degree in web and software development. I am actively searching for a full-time position in the field of software development. As many of you know, the bookstore at WCTC provides all the necessary textbooks, supplies, and many other materials that meet the needs of the students and faculty. Previously, information needed by the bookstore staff to order these materials was gathered through shared spreadsheets and lots of email communications. Clearly, this was not ideal. Hence, they requested for a new web application to be developed. We were very excited to take on this startup challenge. And pending the successful pilot of this application this coming fall with the business IT department, the goal is to ultimately deploy the solution campus-wide, affecting all departments. This presentation will have three main parts: a detailed problem discussion, the solution, including a working demonstration, and finally, our project summation. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Hala.
Let's take a look to the problem of a previous system. Textbooks are being requested and handled via spreadsheets. Collecting data took a lot of time due to multiple faculty members having to enter and approve course material redundantly. Unclear data entry, security flaws due to files being accessed by multiple individuals who may not be authorized to make any changes. Error resulting of using outdated system, such as shared file, emails can be modified incorrectly. Limited communication, collaboration, and file sharing was difficult to manage between the department and the bookstore.
In response to the issues with the previous system, our team set out to create a scalable website to handle the process of assigning textbooks and other course materials to all of the different courses at WCTC. Our goal was to make the process simple and intuitive, with easy to follow user interfaces and standardized data entry forms, which eliminate the risk of human error. In order to ensure that all of the various members of faculty that will use this application, which include the bookstore's purchaser, associate deans and their administrative assistants, and the respective course instructors have the appropriate level of access, the application embodies an efficient role-based workflow and control scheme. As we will demonstrate, instructors will only have access to their assigned courses. Associate deans and their administrative assistants will have access to their respective departments, and the bookstore purchaser will be the owner of this application and have access to all departments' data. We really hope this will add value to WCTC by enriching the entire process of textbook requisition. This will increase the faculty's confidence in the overall process and also reduce the amount of time the process takes. We were also very fortunate to be able to integrate the application with existing data sources. From the bookstore, we were able to get a wealth of textbooks stored from previous semesters and also the courses that the textbooks applied to. This allows the user not only to enter new course materials, but also to choose from existing course application materials that were in the past.
Also, classes information for each semester were integrated from WCTC Student Information System called Banner to our bookstore system to provide a unified view of data. The application is allow users to choose from existing courses and materials. The application ensures accuracy and repeatability in the process. Now I'm going to hand it off to Jerry and Josh to demo the OWL Bookstore application.
Thank you, Hala. The new application is designed to service three primary roles here on campus. Josh and I will take you into the application through the lens of these various roles.
So the application will revolve around three roles. A requester, who is someone who's going to be creating or adding new or previous materials to the courses that they are assigned. The department administrator, someone who will assign specific courses to the designated requester and then approve the requested material that those users added or created. And lastly, a bookstore administrator who has complete control over the application, user management, and oversees the material process, making the final approvals before bookstore purchase.
So let's imagine for the moment, we have a new adjunct instructor joining the business IT department and has the responsibility of submitting new course materials or possibly reusing previous ones. Josh will now demonstrate how that new instructor will create an account in this application.
So when creating a new user, I just enter a username, their email, and their password. Verifying the password. And now I await. Cool. And now I await for the department administrator to confirm my account.
Once a new account is requested, the role of the department administrator will be next, assigning the proper role and course responsibilities to the requester.
So as a department administrator, I can manage the users and set that new user to the requester role. Now I'm going to log in as that newly created user. Oops. And I have no courses. So as the department administrator, I am going to set some courses for that user. So this user is going to be in charge of Python programming and JavaScript 2. Now going back into that new user, I can now see that I have 2 new courses assigned to me. So I'm going to now create some new materials for Python programming. So when adding a new material, a new course material can either be a text material, like a book, or a non-text material, like a hard drive. So the material that I'm going to be adding is going to be a text material. Title, copying and pasting from Stack Overflow. With that author, ISBN, and first edition, of course. You can also add some notes. And can we add this? We cannot. So every course material has to be decided whether it's going to be required or optional. This one is going to be required. We can also decide whether or not it's going to be DDA requested. And DDA requested is a direct digital access, and where this material can be directly integrated into Canvas, which is WCTC's learning management system. So we're going to make that DDA requested as well. Now we have a new material for Python programming. We can edit that material. Let's say we actually wanted second edition. We can save that. And we can remove it if we no longer need that material. Another thing that the requester can do is add material from previous offerings. So for JavaScript 2, I'm going to add the non-DDA seductive interaction design material from the spring of 2019. So I select that, and we can now add that to the course material.
So once the requester has finished submitting the course material, the next step is for the department administrator to review and approve the submission.
So after I log into the department administrator account, I'm able to go and check to see what course materials need approval. So I see that both Python programming and JavaScript 2 need to be approved. I can go in, approve that material, and approve that material as well.
Finally, as department leaders across campus complete the review and approval of all courses, it is time for the bookstore to review the purchase requests.
So once all material is approved by the DAs, as an admin, I can go in and double check to make sure that there is no other course material that need to be approved, or if there is and I need to edit them, I can go in, edit them myself, and approve them. Another thing that an admin can do is manage users themselves, allowing them to either set or change another user's roles, resetting their password, and remove a user if necessary. Another feature that admins can do, which is a very cool feature, is the data download feature. By clicking this button, it allows them to download the current terms, course material information, into an Excel spreadsheet for ease of viewing and ordering. Just like that, we have a full file of all the material that is necessary for that term.
Our team had the opportunity to interview various members of faculty in the School of Business to show off this application and get some initial feedback on how it compares to the current process to broaden the perspective of user expectation to assist future development groups that are going to work on this project as it's scaled across campus. Each demo we performed provided valuable feedback, ranging from the function and placement of selectable options to the hope of basic implementation of reporting features such as the current course enrollment and bookstore inventory levels of the selected textbooks for the courses. All in all, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with each faculty member expressing a lot of excitement and anticipation over this application's final release.
Our app provides a more straightforward and intuitive system for the course requisition process. Its simplicity makes it more accessible and stress-free, but it still contains more functionality since it's a standalone application. We limited the chance for users to enter bad data, form validation, and we also changed the data structure to be more readable and easy to maintain. We expectedly ran into some challenges during development. The first challenge we encountered was figuring out how to start and kind of getting an idea of what the final product would look like. And managing expectations from both the faculty and administrators is also a challenge since each had different ideas of how the app should look or function.
So what are we going to take away from our work on this project? First of all, I'll come right out and say it. Starting a new project is hard. And like Sawyer said, it took us a little bit longer than we expected to wrap our heads around all that this project entailed. So to try to figure all that out, what data there is, where the data is coming from, how we're going to present that data to the user, at least initially, and to figure that all out and turn around and produce some results in the first 2 weeks was quite a challenge for us. Eventually, we hit our stride, and I think we made a lot of good progress, as I think you saw in the demo. So one thing that we can take away from this is that starting a new project is not as easy as it may appear. Moving on to the next point, the way that our team process works is that every 2 weeks, or over the course of 2 weeks, our team works on a unit of work, and then we present that unit of work at the end of the 2 weeks. So at the beginning, we started with nothing, but our end users, like our instructors and Seth, the product owner from the bookstore, probably had some idea in their heads of what the product should look like, what the application should do, how it should function. But we started with nothing. So then when we present that work and after the first 2 weeks, then they have something to say about it. They'll say, oh, this form actually needed something else on it. This field should have been a checkbox and all sorts of stuff. So we take that feedback and we work on it over the next 2 weeks. And I think we learned that this was a really valuable part of the process, because if we hadn't been getting that feedback and working on it the whole semester, we would have gotten all the feedback from you tonight, and Jeff would have torn us apart with his questions, I think. So this was really valuable for us. It was a positive experience for us to learn how to iterate based on that feedback. Finally, coding together. For most, if not all of us, I think this was our first experience working at a large scale with a group project for coding. There was a little bit of a learning curve involved in that. Luckily, we didn't have any instances where we lost a huge chunk of code or anything. And I will say that I think we made some huge improvements in our workflow as we got to more comfortable with the tools like our version control, source code manager, GitHub. As we got more comfortable with that and merging our code on it together and then testing that code and figuring that all out, we made a lot of improvements and really hit our stride. And that was a great experience for us as we enter the workforce as well, because we're not going to be coding by ourselves at a workplace. We're going to be doing it on a team. So those are some of our big takeaways. Thank you so much for coming to our presentation. We're really proud of the work that we did on this new app. If you're one of the end users of this and you're here tonight, we think you're going to love it. So thank you again, and we will now open the floor for questions.
We got a couple.
Hi, this is Kim Ehlert. I am not, I don't have a question. I just want to give you guys kudos. I have to tell you, after 12 years of submitting book orders, this was so needed and it looks amazing. The old way was very cumbersome and prone to typos, like human typos. So thank you so much for all your work on this.
I got a couple of questions.
I gotta beat Jeff because he's got like 17 questions, so I gotta.
Oh, you go ahead, John.
No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to jump in and I want to echo what Kim was saying as an end user of this. I can't tell you how excited I am. The current process is very cumbersome, time consuming, a lot of errors. And this idea of simplification and just value of people's time as we think about, using software like this. I mean, it's so important to people who are already bogged down and have tons of work to do. So I think the end users of this are going to really love it, myself included. So thank you for developing this, and I look forward to using it. And I would also say great job to everybody. You guys did an awesome job.
Jeff, I'm going to jump in before you. Ha.
Okay,
Ha.
jump in.
I just got to say that I have felt since day one teaching here that this process needed to be in the hands of the instructors, and the whole workflow process that used to happen was just so silly. So I'm really glad that you've given the instructors the ability to enter this data themselves, and then it goes through the workflow process naturally. I just kept sitting there waiting for, oh, they missed a button, they missed an option, and I couldn't see anything that you missed. So I'm not sure what anybody else is going to continue to add to this, but nice job, everybody. Thanks so much.
I concur. I love it. I am absolutely looking forward to utilizing this in the near future. And I'm hoping that School of Business, we get to beta test it, because I think it's really going to make a lot of our jobs easier. So thank you very much, my friends. And Jeff, it's back to you.
I get to go now. So my favorite thing I just want to say about this program is it actually is really simple. And most people don't understand that it's actually not easy to make, an application that does as much as this does, as simple as it is. So congratulations to this team on a fantastic job of making a challenging task very simple. And the application, I think, looks super clean, and it's got tons of functionality. So, so congratulations. It's just awesome. And I hope your customers, did you guys get feedback from your customer on this?
We did.
I hope he's super happy. He has to be.
He is, very much so.
So my first actual question is, I know you guys did some unique things here. What all frameworks did you guys use, and why did you decide to go with certain frameworks versus doing things another way?
I could start with the back end. .NET Core 3.1, I think, was pre-specified for us. It's something that's supported on campus, something that most of us have encountered through our coursework. So leveraging those two facts, it sort of made it a predetermined path.
And then we felt that rather than go with an MVC model, it would be more interesting or fun or maybe even a better architecture for us to use a web API with the .NET. So then we could use on the front end a Vue front end using a Vuetify library to help make everything look so clean and nice, like you said. And I think we were all really happy with the results. It's all stuff that we've learned in courses, so everyone was familiar with everything.
So I know going into this project, you guys were all really excited about working on a brand new project rather than taking on something that existed. And it sounded like, based on your presentation, most of you learned that that's not, it is very challenging to complete an entire application of this magnitude, especially with such a great job you did. So looking back, are you glad you did something brand new, or had you wished you had maybe done something pre-existing, or just one of your feelings on that?
I could go first. I think I'm very proud of our team and the deliverable we produced. I think it's invaluable experience to start something from scratch. It gives me the confidence to go out and tackle a brand new challenge, in addition to stepping into existing, software or technology and reviewing that. So this is in addition to that. So I think it's been wonderful experience from my perspective.
Kind of going off what Jerry said, I think, we all did really well. And I think it was a really awesome experience starting a whole new project from the ground up. But I think it would have been pretty interesting to receive someone else's code on the other side of things. Because, as you do your courses here, you're starting all your projects yourselves, you're building them yourself. But I think it would have been really interesting to kind of see how other people do it and kind of have to work around that and work with that.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned earlier too that that's pretty real world, is going to something that somebody's already built. So we got to work with each other instead.
Well, the truth is they're both real world experiences, and they both present their own challenges and learning opportunities. So they're both definitely valuable opportunities. So I was just curious where you guys felt. Well, that's all I know that we have a lot of people here, and I don't want to take up too much time. I don't want anybody to think that I'm a question hog. So again, just congratulations to you guys and all the teams. Just really fantastic work. Super proud of you all.
All right, John Heisler here. I've been lurking for most of this because I got 3 kids in the background just going battle royale. New projects are always hard. Is there anything you would do differently in the future starting a new project, and what did you learn from sort of starting something from scratch and going all the way to deliverable?
I can jump in first for that one. From the data standpoint, I can say that it was definitely a challenge dealing with data that had traditionally been collected manually, whether it was on paper form and then put into a spreadsheet and transcended through God knows how many hands throughout the campus. So coming from that standpoint, it was really a great experience just learning how to dig into the data and get yourself the story that it tells and be able to put it into a relational format that an application can use and simplify down to the level that the developers were able to take it to. So as far as doing anything differently, I'm not sure we would, in my opinion. We definitely took a route that got us to the end, and it was a good experience for everybody.
Yeah, and adding to that, I think from a startup point of view, we trusted some of the counsel and advice of our instructors, but definitely I could see in a real world situation, after gathering the requirements, really understanding the tech stack, it is a bit of a trust and faith we place in our instructors, saying these are compatible technologies and the future serviceability of them, could be sustained. So definitely, I think in a real world situation, more research would probably go into that as a project team.
I have a question for you. And starting with a new project like this one, you have different users. So you've got both the bookstore that you're trying to please, as well as the faculty who are going to be loading the data into the system, or the textbook information into the system. Did you find that they had clear visions of and could convey to you what they were looking for? Or did it really take the iteration process, the feedback process to eventually get to what they thought they needed or wanted?
I think it was a combination. I think there was definitely a legacy experience as well as a future vision that came at the beginning. But, again, kudos to this team. We were able to sort of get a quick prototype of the UI out to users and get that, critical initial response and feedback. And that clearly opened up, a lot more discussion, a lot more ideation. And then even till the last day of this project, we saw more potential, more possibilities. So it's ever evolving. I strongly suspect that during pilot, there's going to be additional ideas and functionalities to come from it. And may not just impact the application, but I'm sure it will impact the process and workflow on campus as well. Once, this technology is shown to more users.
I have a question, but it's probably more for Matt and Nikki. How are these projects initially assigned? Since this group started from scratch, did they draw the short stick, or how does that work?
So we do ask them for some input, and then we build teams that we believe will succeed and where people will shine.
So we ask the students to tell us, actually we present them with all the projects day one, and then they have to apply. They have to write us a cover letter telling us which project they would like to work on and why. And then we also give them the opportunity to say, I absolutely do not want to work on X project. And if the student tells us, I don't want to work on this particular project, we make a point of not putting them on that project. But they may not get the project that they do want to work on, because, if everybody picks the new project, clearly not everybody can work on that one project.
I have a question. This is probably the first project in over a decade that the group hasn't used Bootstrap. What was the reason for going with Beautify and material design?
I personally just think it looks a lot more clean and just makes everything more simple, and everything looks so much better than Bootstrap.
I tried to convince him, but Sawyer was very adamant about using Beautify. No, I liked both. They're pretty similar to use, and I think it looks really nice.
I agree. I was just kind of giving you a hard time. I appreciated the switch up here, because it's, for the longest time, it's been just so much of the same with these projects. So I like to see that you guys ventured out and tried something new.
I just kind of want to open it up to the entire group, because I tend to see all these students right at the beginning. So it's so rewarding to see the depth and wisdom that's coming out of all of them at this phase. It's like emotional to watch. It's very cool. So I'm very proud of all of you guys. It's really fantastic. And just wondering if anybody would like to share any of those moments that you had maybe somewhere along your path here, that was that aha moment that made you go, yes, this is what I want to do, or anything that you guys want to share about the process of getting to where you are, because you should all be very proud.
I guess I never really thought I'd get to this point. Not to like downplay, I don't know, but because I, was doing something completely different. And
Were you a psychology major before, Josh?
yeah, psychology and philosophy. So
Right.
I have a bachelor's degree there, and then just took a complete, left turn and started doing this, and immediately fell in love with it. So, starting off from pretty much not knowing anything to now working with this awesome group and presenting this awesome project is, pretty surreal and awesome. So
So I decided I wanted to do web and software development when I during my year I did dual enrollment here and during my senior year of high school. And actually in Brittany's class, the intro to programming was C#. Just being able to experience like writing programs that use logic to do different things, even at such a base level, it was just really exciting for me to be able to make something that worked and did a thing. And also getting to see some of my peers knew a lot out of the box. Brittany, if you remember Eric and now the other, oh man, his name evades me. But seeing some of my peers who like really had a good idea of what they were doing, I'm like, wow, there's some stuff to learn here. And that got me excited to do this program.
Brittany, I never had you in class, and I'm sorry about that.
I hear you're fantastic, though.
Oh, well, thanks. But I was gonna say I do have a previous bachelor's degree, and I think this class is one of the best classes I've ever taken. In just regards to job preparation, it just makes so much sense, and I'm really glad that you guys offer it here. So thank you.
I'm not sure. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say this capstone course for me, it's kind of proven that I have the skills that I'm gonna need to actually work and do this kind of thing in the field. It's kind of been exciting for me realizing that, when I started the project, I'm like, I don't really know if I necessarily have the skills to get into the workforce and do that kind of thing. But by now I'm like, oh, I know I can pick up a project and figure out what's going on and definitely be able to work with whatever I'm given. So that's kind of exciting for me.
That's huge.
I'm not sure if I had an aha moment. I was dead set on this track, and but I think every step of the way, I couldn't have done it without all the great instructors and CK and other staff that were very supportive, gave a lot of advice, and had a lot of flexibility and understanding. And it's great to see them all here today after this, wonderful course, working with a wonderful team. Tyler, Melissa, Brittany, you were a sub. I didn't have a full course with you, but seeing Jeff and Matt and just a lot of people here is just, to me that was the most rewarding experience. And I think I made, career, if not lifelong, friends here, not just with students, but with instructors.
yeah, going off of that, I just gotta say all the instructors that I've either had or met are hands down like the greatest people I've ever like interacted with at WCTC. I don't know what it is, but yeah, no, Jerry definitely said it great. Thank you guys.
This is the best school. Like, this is my third time around attempting to get my associates. I've had a rocky start, and like all the teachers here and the staff, and even like the people when you're signing up and like going through orientation, they're so helpful and just want you to succeed. And it's really an amazing experience.
Yeah, I knew Becky back at ITT Tech. And then when that imploded, we both showed up over here. It worked out. Good job, Becky.
Thank you.
And if I didn't mention Lisa's name or Nikki's or Tyler's, I apologize. There's multiple pages I have to scroll over here. So I apologize if I missed anybody.
When are final grades due? Is this making sure you get that good word in before final grades are submitted?
Yes.
I just need a C to pass. I think I have that secured through all the testing.
You'll
This
be
is an
fine.
emotional retrospective, Drew. It's okay.
You'll be fine, Jerry. And they're not due until Wednesday. So my faculty have a little bit of time in order to continue evaluating you. But thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm very happy to see that we have a huge group. And I would love, yes, Randy, I hope we are capturing this feedback. We have all little videos here. This is a perfect video for marketing WCTC. But thank you all for joining us tonight. And thank you for listening to our students and their fantastic projects. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Nikki. We appreciate your guidance with all of our students and these Capstone programs and projects. So thank you much. And I'll let the two of you wrap it up.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Awesome job, all the groups. You did it fantastic. And we hope that you'll all come back and join us at the end of next semester for the next presentations. If anybody has any additional questions for follow-up for either the students or Matt or I, you can send Matt or I an email and we can get it to the students as well if it's for them. Thank you and have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Great work, everyone. Proud of you guys.
Are we done with class tonight, or do we need to meet up again afterwards?
You're muted, Matt. Oh.
If you haven't done the class retrospectives, don't forget to do that and the end of course surveys, but that's it.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Hey Matt, you're on mute.
That's always on mute.
All right. So